Hello, everybody, and welcome again to another episode of the Risk Matrix with Mr. James Junkin. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide, happy Mardi Gras. Y'all come on down. The good times are rolling, baby. King cake for everybody.
King cake for everybody.
Mm.
And myself, Dr. Martin, we are here today to give you another episode of the Risk Matrix. And sadly, today we're going to talk about a legend that we lost recently. But before we do that, we're going to have a note from our sponsor. We know that we're powered by Veriforce, but we're sponsored by today someone pretty neat.
The Safety on the Edge Conference is a premier event that brings together academia, industry leaders, safety professionals, regulatory agencies, and experts to discuss and promote the latest advancements in safety technology, models, and best practices. The Safety on the Edge Conference is proud to sponsor Veriforce's Risk Matrix.
Veriforce is proud to announce the latest version of our Safeland USA accredited course called Basic Orientation 7.0. This is our flagship course that has been taken by over 1.6 million students nationwide. The newest version of this course is shorter than the last version, with condensed training and updated multimedia, but it still includes the same topics as previous courses. As always, the Safeland orientation remains with this employee through the career. It eliminates the redundancy of multiple orientations, and it stores all the training records in a single centralized database for everyone to use. Also, we offer two solutions for getting the training. You can either seek out Safeland training from one of our third-party providers, or you can send one of your instructors through our Train the Trainer program to teach your own employees. If you're interested in learning more, please contact our training sales department at 888-482-9101. That's 888-482-9101, or you can email us at trainingsales@veriforce.com.
All right, we're back. And James, you and I talked about this as we have gone about our careers. There are people that have influenced us greatly, that influence other safety professionals. And just recently, the death of one of what I would consider one of the greats was announced. Do you want to take that?
Yeah, February 5th, we lost Dr. James Reason. And it was shocking to me in that I didn't know he was ill. It wasn't like Dr. Reason and I were best friends. I've never even met Dr. Reason. But his books and his writings have greatly influenced me, you, others, in changing our views perhaps on human error, our views on how we investigate accidents, how we look for causation, and it's just very
It's
very
sad, right?
sad.
Because there are a lot of our quote unquote founding fathers in the safety and risk industry that are getting up there in age. And a lot of that knowledge I think is going to carry on. I think we're still going to read their books and look at some of their foundational theories. But just for people who might not know Dr. Reason's work, he basically worked on a framework for analyzing accident causation in complex systems. Okay. It basically visualized safety barriers of slices of cheese, if you ever heard of the Swiss cheese model, right? With holes representing potential failures. And in those holes, that's where the accidents occur. If the holes align, what happens, James?
Disaster. For people that are listening to our podcast that aren't familiar with Dr. Reason, if you fly on commercial aircraft, you can credit the safety of that aircraft and that crew and the industry as a whole to Dr. James Reason. He revolutionized theories of accident causation in aviation and why people do what they do and how to eliminate human error in the design of the work, right?
Right?
And so we owe a debt of gratitude daily to someone that maybe not everyone knows outside the safety profession.
Right. And his three main areas, just so kind of fill people in, right, was systems approach to safety, right? Human error analysis and organizational culture. Okay. And we're going to go through a few people that you can kind of filter down to their work now, because their work is kind of forefront and influencing other people. But like James said, aviation was very heavily influenced by Dr. Reason's work, healthcare and industrial safety. Okay. So we're talking founding father here. James, can you start us off with some of the people that kind of are filtered down from his work, and that people should be um, eyeing their work and reading about it and looking to the future for future improvements?
Well, this Dr. Reason was a major transition away from seeing the worker as the source of all the problems within a safety management system. And his revolutionary work in his book, Human Error, I have it. I doubt there's an article I've ever written or a paper I've ever written at Columbia Southern that does not cite Dr. Reason. And from that, at least in my career, that led me to others that built upon his theories and his lifetime achievements. Like if you're a human performance person and you like Todd Conklin and you like Sidney Decker and that resonates with you, hey, they built upon the works of Dr. Reason. So without Dr. Reason, there might not be a Sidney Decker. Might not be a Todd Conklin. There might not be a hot movement within safety. There definitely wouldn't be a book, the field guide to understanding human error, if there wasn't first Dr. Reason's book, Human Error. So just kind of making it a little bit personal to me, I first encountered Dr. Reason's books and doing some research, and he was referenced by one of the other titans that's getting up in age, legends of safety, which is Fred Manuel. And a lot of Dr. Reason's works resonated with Fred, and his particularly when it came to system safety, understanding that blaming workers for problems in the system is counterintuitive, and it leaves the error provocative there within the safety management system. So you see accidents repeating themselves. So I'm a huge fan of Decker, Conklin, a lot of the others in the human performance range. But without Dr. Reason, we probably wouldn't be where we are today. There's no telling how many lives James Reason has saved. And he wasn't a safety professional. He was a psychologist, right? But his understanding how human beings work, how they think, how they perform their jobs, setting the framework of creating systems where we're trying to design out the error provocative. Hey, guess what? That was way before anyone was thinking about prevention through design. And
Right.
I just can't tell you how thankful I am and others for what they've done in lifetime works to build upon Dr. Reason's work.
So let's talk a little bit about what you mentioned there, James. You kind of summed up a just culture, right? He was one of the founders kind of just culture, right? And it emphasized the mistakes are a product of organizational culture rather than solely brought on by the person, right?
Right.
And some of the people that came to that and wrote further on it were Sidney Decker, right? He's a big proponent of just culture and how it works in an organization. I don't think Sidney Decker started as a safety professional either. I could be wrong. I think he worked in other things, but he does work with a lot of the titans in Australia, like David Proven, Drew Ray, and so these are the people that we should be looking to and reading, and certainly read Dr. Reason's foundational work, but let's start looking towards the future, because these are the people who are publishing now, right?
Uh-huh.
And are going to take the reins or already have taken the reins.
Well, Eric's books around resilience, Honagel's books around resilience engineering. You know, that we're really getting to the point where technology has gotten to the point in modern workplaces where you really have to really now focus on the actions of human beings, right? Not blaming workers, but seeing where we're designing for the potential for human error in the process. If you put human error in the process, and if human beings find that human error, and we all do because we're human, that shouldn't result in disaster, right? That's really revolutionary thinking. Being able to have workplace defenses, all that Conklin talks about barriers and defenses, man, that is straight up James Reason's Swiss cheese model. And it's great to see it now as technology increases, how workplaces can be designed better, that if mistakes happen, they don't result in disaster. You know, another one of my people that have influenced me, particularly in process safety, is Dr. Trevor Kletz, who passed away a few years ago. He was a renowned professor down at Texas A&M, maybe the father of process safety management. He used to say, in a well-designed plant, someone simply flipping a lever should not result in disaster. So, you know, I think another thing that resonates with me that you see pretty commonly now was Dr. Reason first coming out and thinking about organizational culture. You know,
listen, if anybody listens to our show, right, we talk about this a lot. I just had one of our favorite students, you and I, a mentee, we had a conversation about organizational culture versus safety culture, right? And this is one of the reasons that I land solidly on organizational culture, right? Because safety culture drills down to something separate altogether, and it really is the Swiss cheese model is based on all the things, right? Not just some of the things, right? Not just safety. It's productivity, it's pressures from management, it's how people are treated overall, it's human resource. All of those things are layers, right? It's not just about safety.
You know, the pro safety culture crowd will tell you that's what they mean when they say that. It's just semantics, right? But I think you got to call things by what they are. And when light bulbs should go off, when you start thinking about organizational culture and you start reading about what some of these founding fathers thought about organizational culture, it just resonates. I mean, like down in New Orleans, we don't have a New Orleans culture and then a Mardi Gras culture. We just got
culture,
a New Orleans culture, baby. And Mardi Gras is a part of it, right? Same thing's true when it comes to safety. There's not a procurement culture, a operations culture, an accounting culture, then a separate culture that the management team has. That's all.
If there is, your system is broken, right?
If there is, you got a huge problem.
Because the very definition of a system is everybody's working together towards the same goals or goal, right?
Absolutely. You know, I'm just kind of sad, bummed out that Dr. Reason's gone. You know, I've experienced loss of some of my mentors as I'm getting into my 50s. A lot of the people that were very influential in my life are now in their 70s. Some of them are passed on. Some of them are nearing retirement. And I guess if I wanted to put something out there to our listeners, take advantage while you can of the opportunities to interact with some of these titans, some of these legends that are still with us. Now, their works will live on forever, and we'll continue to build upon what Dr. Reason had published, his comments, you know, his lectures, his articles. We continue to find that through the miracle of technology. But it's one thing to do that. It's another thing to go sit and listen to some of these folks speak, find them on YouTube, look them up on LinkedIn, send them a message, emails. I think they appreciate that. And certainly as someone who is a lifetime learner, I like reaching out to these folks as well. But the torch is being passed to some of the names that we mentioned. And I would just also encourage some of the folks that are our listeners, you can be some of those names as well. There's nothing that says I cannot get out there in the realm of safety and have my own contributions based on my own research and my own experience. So, I think it's kind of cool that you mentioned the fact that Dr. Reason didn't start out in safety, but his works directly apply to safety. And that's true if you want to talk about Geller as well, and your behaviorist. He didn't start out in safety, but his works have greatly influenced a lot of the safety theories that are there today.
He's
That
a
can be
psychologist. That could be you. So here's the word to the caution, right? You want to make an idea, right? Or take an idea and make it better, or put your own spin on it, or put some additional thought process into it. So make sure when you're looking at, who's inspiring you, why are they inspiring you, right? And what else can you add, right? Because we all have things that we can add to Reason's work. We may not say it right, but people like Conklin and Decker, and they've taken it and they've run with it. And so, my challenge to people in our field is to take those ideas and run with that. We don't have a lot of, I mean, I hate to say this because I think it's true. We don't have a lot of people publishing really good articles, really good research in the form that we're going to be looking at a future beyond the next tier, right? Beyond the Conklins, beyond the Deckers, beyond the Provens. Who else is coming up and publishing? I don't know. I mean, have you seen people to watch out for? I can't name.
none come
I
to
can name a
mind.
lot of people who talk the talk and walk the walk, but they don't put anything original into the world. We've talked about this before.
Right.
Going to conferences where people just regurgitate variations on a theme, but nothing original, nothing to chew on, nothing to think about, right? And you got to get to the conferences where some of these people are that are pushing the boundaries, or all you ever hear is the same thing over and over again, right? And we stay stagnant.
I agree with that 1,000%. It's a lot of work to build on the body of research. And really, that's what happened. Dr. Reason came out with his research, his theories published, and then boom, here comes along Decker, here comes along Conkel, here comes along Eric. And all of them took a little different approach to how to build upon that, right? But taking it holistically, all their work combined really built upon what you were talking about when it came to Dr. Reason. So the lesson for our generation is, hey, we're getting handed the torch. It's our time to build upon the body of research and not just be regurgitators of information and technology and theories that came before us. It's our responsibility now to do that. And that's hard. As a doctoral candidate, I can certainly tell you research is not easy. And then finding your niche, that one little slice. We all want to boil the ocean. We all want to take on the world. And I'm the worst about that, right? Narrowing down research to that particular piece where you can make a contribution. And if you look back to what the upcoming fathers of and mothers of safety, if you will, that's what they did. They just built upon the body of research, and that pays homage to the people that came before, and it also improves the workplace for the workers that come afterward. So we have a lot of things they didn't have. AI, how that's going to work, how that influences the workplace, how man interacts with machine going
What kind of data can we mine?
And what kind of data do we have access to now? Predictive, I'm real interested in predictive analytics. I'm talking about real predictive analytics that offers value, that can anticipate hazards and situations and recommend controls before the incident happens. I'm super interested in that. Now, I may not have the mental capability to do the work. I am from Alabama, roll tide, right? But I certainly am interested in someone being able to build upon Dr. Reason, some of the titans that we have today, and figuring out, can we get to a truly predictive model?
Yeah. So when you're looking at research topics, James and I know this from working together, right? James does want to boil the ocean. And one of the most difficult conversations we've had, I think, in our friendship, in our collegial relationship, is that you can't boil the ocean, that we've got to pick a little piece of the pie that others can build on, right? You're not just looking at where is the gap, but you're actually driving a wedge into that tiny little gap so that somebody can follow after you, right? And I think, we've talked about James's work before, and we'll probably talk about it again, but I think we've driven a wedge in the gap that you want to look at, right? So, I guess my plea to everybody is, take these, the loss of James Reason, the loss of some of the other big names, right? Or potential loss of other big names, that there's a call to action here. And the call to action is not to go and speak at conferences and talk about the same thing, right? The call to action is look critically at what we have, use the tools that have emerged, right? As you talk about AI and some of the other technologies that are coming out, and come up with original things that we all can use for the greater good.
I'm down with that. I mean, I hope to be a contributor to that. But that's how we get better, right? Challenging each other's ideas from a place of respect, And I want to underline that place of respect, because I think we can get into camps when we have this epiphany. All of a sudden, we're all knowledgeable and everybody else is an idiot, and we don't mind getting on LinkedIn and voicing that.
Or creating this versus that just for the sake of this versus that, right? We all, if you don't know about this, right? Back in the day, there was the big Conklin versus Geller, right?
Yep.
Hop versus
Showdown in
database.
San Antonio.
Showdown in San Antonio, right? You can find it on YouTube where they go at it, right? And we've got a bunch of hucksters now. I'm going to call them hucksters. It's just my opinion that exist on LinkedIn that are trying to start similar debates, whether for personal gain or just to start some conversations, which I don't have a problem with. But let's be reasonable. Let's bring out something new. And why does it always have to be this versus that? You know how I roll, James. It just depends, right? So don't plant yourself in a camp, because if you're an actual practitioner instead of a consultant or somebody, like myself, who's out there theorizing all day long, just know that one silver bullet never takes care of the whole problem.
Somebody asked me yesterday in a Zoom meeting that we had, what's the number one challenge in occupational safety and health around the world? And I said, the idea that there's a silver bullet that fixes all of your workplace safety issues, obligations, and is going to end workplace injuries. And I actually quoted you. I said, in my good friend Dr. Martin's estimation, it just depends, right? It just depends. So while I'm a huge fan of James Reason, it resonates with me. Fred Manuel resonates with me. If you want to see somebody that has done research on both Decker and Reason and put it into the context of safety management systems, read Fran Manuel's work, and he has a plethora of work out there, right? He's able to dissect, right. and I can see through Fred's eyes, the direct application. But maybe that doesn't work in your organization, right? Maybe behavior-based safety works in your organization. And if you're bringing workers home safe, particularly from high risk, high hazard jobs, hey, I'm not going to say what you're doing is wrong, because the proof is in the pudding, right? The proof is in the winning. And the winning is we all get to come home safe.
I don't know any one of us that's going to buy a pair of pants that says one size fits all, right?
Hey, if they made it, it'd
Just
probably
to
be
use an
too small
analogy,
for me.
which I'm very good at. I love analogies, right? One size fits all pants. We
That's
all know
right.
that reality, one size fits some, and sometimes one size fits none adequately, right? So let's
Right.
be really careful about what we apply and what we draw from the legends and where we put our focus when we're actually putting where the rubber meets the road and we're putting things to practice.
And I think there's also a danger. I went through this in my career, where you start reading these foundational works and the light bulbs are coming on, boom, 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 and you want to make changes within your organizational culture. You want to start implementing some of these human performance theories, because you see hazards are best controlled in the planning of the work, but you're in a small organization with very limited resources, and you get super frustrated. You're asking for a dramatic change, and that leads to burnout. A lot of the other things that we talked about, conflicts with the management team, et cetera. Hey, it's okay to make small steps.
Right.
Don't become frustrated. We get up, we have a plan, we work the plan. Just because you get it today doesn't mean everybody else gets it at the same time. Don't be frustrated by that. Don't be
Yep. Slow
frustrated.
and easy wins the race, right, James?
Slow
How
and
many
easy
times
wins
have
the
we
race.
how many times have we gone into consulting situations where number one, they're looking for the silver bullet, and number two, they're looking for the silver bullet right now. Right
Absolutely.
now. And while I appreciate the right now, because I'm in the business of trying to save lives and protect people, property, and the environment, sometimes the urgency of right now has been a long time in the making. I'm cueing your quote there, James.
Well,
You know what quote I'm talking about, right?
Reason had that, and let me see if I can go back to his quote, and I'll butcher it, but he basically said, the accidents are the result of all these different organizational contexts. I'm gonna butcher his quote, but it's really, rather than looking to the operator, it's really accidents are the source of poor maintenance, poor installation, poor training, poor equipment, all these things that are make up organizational context, and really the actions of the worker, right, are the final garnish to a lethal brew that's been long in the cooking. When I
There you
read
go.
that, man, that resonated with me, because usually when we do investigations, we're seeing the actions that the worker took that led to their demise. And it's usually
Right.
the tip of the iceberg. And that's what Reason was saying when he made that quote. The final garnish to a lethal brew that's been long in the cooking. And then now you're getting into what others have built upon, which is particularly Decker, and talking about organizational context and seeing work as workers see it. Because work does not take place in a linear manner.
Work
Work
also does not take place in just a safety environment.
Exactly. Exactly.
Hence
So,
organizational culture, organizational context.
so understanding those operational contexts, that's essential in us crafting a safer workplace. So, this whole thing has been really exciting in my career, because if you go back and you start reading these works of these titans of like Dr. Reason and all the people that have built upon Dr. Reason's work, you can see this shift in how we look at work, right? And how we look at worker, and how we look at accident prevention, and how you look at an organization that may have billions of dollars dedicated to their safety program, have a very public incident. And, usually that's chemical releases, a lot of fires, a lot of explosions, a lot of people impacted, like what happened during the BP oil spill, right? But when you dig down into that, and even though there's a lot of resources that come into play in those incidents and countermeasures put into place, it's shocking to the general public that a similar accident, happened 5 years before that in Texas City. And a lot of the same things that they said, and it as far as causation in the Texas City BP incident and that refinery incident, were also found again, even though they had invested billions of dollars, made leadership changes. Why? Because the potential for that human error within the organizational context still stayed. It still stayed.
Failure to learn allows history to repeat itself.
That's
right?
another legend. Dr. Andrew Hopkins from down in Australia. He wrote a book about the BP oil incident where he said failure to learn. The idea that we take, and Dr. Kletz was about this too. We take a report, post incident, we write the report, we come up with the causal analysis, we put the report in a file, we put it in the drawer, and then we forget about it. Why? Because organizations
don't share,
don't have memory.
we don't.
People have memory, right?
Yeah.
And I thought that was outstanding. It fits right in line with all the work that these others have done. You're building upon the work of others here. He said, organizations don't have memory. People have memory. And when people leave the plant or they leave the company, the memory of this incident goes with them. And that's why you have incidents that repeat themselves, right? So when you go and look, going back to Dr. Reason, everyone is building upon his work. And he's gone now, but I certainly appreciate, and I think I can speak for safety professionals everywhere, that we wouldn't be the people we are today. The injury rates would not be what they are today. More people would have lost their lives in workplace accidents had it not been for this foundational work, human error, by Dr. Reese. And we all owe him a debt of gratitude.
So raise a glass. I guess the whole point of this episode is raise a glass. I don't have a glass here, but I'll raise a glass to Dr. Reason. If you haven't read his work, if you haven't heard of him, I'm just going to say you should have. Go out and get his books. They're on Amazon. Trace that lineage through the people who have quoted him, who have referenced him, and follow that work forward. And I go forth and create new ideas, right? Not for the sake of creating new ideas, but create something that you can put into the world that follows this lineage. So thanks, Dr. Reason.
Thank you, Dr. Reason. Fair winds and following seas. We have the watch. And happy Mardi Gras to everybody else. Go do something good for others, and you'll be justly rewarded for it.
Right on. So thanks again for listening to the Risk Matrix. And if you like what we talk about, or if you don't like what we talk about, there's a way to interact with us. You can go to our YouTube, which is on Veriforce's YouTube page. You can click like, you can subscribe there, and you can also comment on that page and ask questions or comment, tell us what you think, and you'll get a response. We're accessible. If you can't get us there, get us on LinkedIn. Both James and I are on LinkedIn. Happy to field requests. And guess what? We're also on Spotify. So James, what can they do on Spotify?
Hey, you can do the same thing. Go over there and subscribe for the alerts. Our episodes drop every Tuesday, somewhere around noon Central. You can be notified when there is a new episode of the Risk Matrix. You also have access to our now almost 100 episodes.
I was just going to say, we must be coming up on 100.
Coming up soon. I got to look at the calendar and figure out what that date is. We're going to do something special on our.
We got to do something special,
right? But we've got tons of topics where we talk about the struggles safety professionals have, the safety profession in general. We've had a lot of really cool guests on in the last couple of years, and you can be part of that. So if you've got a story to say, tell, you've got some experiences, you've got some, hey, I want to help build on this body of research like we talked about today, and you've got a really cool idea, hit us up. We'd love to have you on the podcast and talk about it.
All right. Until then, James, roll tide. And to our listeners, thanks again for listening. Check us out on YouTube, check us out on Spotify. And of course, we'll be back next week with another episode of the Risk Matrix. Roll tide.
Happy Mardi Gras. Roll tide. Be careful on those king cakes. Out.